Hi, I'm Joseph Bradley, CEO of Neom Tech and Digital, and super excited to have an opportunity to talk to you today about quantum computing, a topic that is very, very near and close to my heart. When we talk about quantum computing, most of the time we focus a lot on the technology, qubits, ones and zeros, fancy terms. But today I'd like to shift that conversation a bit. And to give you some motivation behind this topic, I had an opportunity many, many years ago, probably 30 plus years ago, to work on one of the first Internet of Everything projects, Internet of Things projects in the world. And that was, we had a retailer at this Fortune 100 company that I was working for that wanted to understand how do they fundamentally reduce the amount of time someone waits in line. Because as they uncovered, the longer you wait in line, there's a chance that you will abandon your cart and leave the store. So we were brought in and was a great opportunity. I said, look, there's all these unconnected things that we can begin to connect. We can connect the parking lot, let's know who's going into the store. We can connect the shopping cart, let's know where geospatial information is. And ultimately, we also know what your point of sale purchases are. And so we know we can connect the shelves. We know, hey, when you buy milk, you're getting ready to check out. When you buy ice cream, you're getting ready to check out. So we can basically come up with a great model to predict when a person is going to check out to let us know how long the lines are going to be, so we know who to put up at the registers. Great application. And sure enough, we're going through this, and I'm telling this story to, at the time, my 13-year-old daughter and 11-year-old son. And my son is enthralled. She goes, Dad, he's looking at me with his great eyes. Dad, my dad's doing something that's really great and exciting. He's all super excited. He's really happy. And then I look at my 13-year-old daughter. And being 13, she's inquisitive, questions a lot. She sits back. She says, Dad, that's pretty cool, but I think you missed something. I'm saying, it's a 13-year-old kid. What do you mean we missed something? She says, well, you started by saying you want to know how do you reduce the amount of time someone waits in line. I said, yes. She said, well, actually, I think you asked the wrong question. I think you should have asked, how do you eliminate the lines? Smart 13-year-old kid. Now you fast forward 20 years ago, 20 years from now, and now we have the Apple stores with no line, and we've fundamentally changed our entire shopping experience. What does apply to quantum computing is because I think the core question is not so much now about the technology, but it's really about what are the business use cases? What are the business usages? How do we see this actually evolving and helping us solve problems of the day? And when you think about the problems that we're facing post COVID, I group them into three major buckets. The first is this promise of digital has just fallen short. I mean, when you think about the types of experiences that we've been forced into with the virtualization that we've experienced, that we couldn't go outside, we couldn't interact with people, our core cornerstone of our experience is the famous phrase, are you on mute? You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute. We must say that 10,000 times a day. Clearly, there has to be more to a digital experience than are you on mute. Secondly, I think the core area is around trust. We've lost the ability to establish trust in how we exchange information, which is greatly inhibiting our ability to drive innovation. So we've lost, I think, the foundational premise of what it means to be a vibrant economy because we can't replace the loss of what I would call the trust economy. So we have to really focus on how do we gain back trust. And the third business element or problem that's really facing us is, man, can you believe that we as humans have figured out that work-life balance is important after COVID, that family matters, that what you do in your off time matters. And so it's created this amazing challenges for businesses today where we have to figure out how do we truly attract, retain talent in the world. And so when you think about these three major problems that we're facing, I think quantum computing has a big role to play in helping us solve those three problems. So let's talk about the first one on how do you create lifelike experiences. It's all around what I would call contextual intelligence. It's ultimately the ability for quantum computing to enable real time intelligence and the ability to understand context of what is happening to really give us lifelike experiences. And I'll dig deeper into that. Second, when you think about trust, ultimately, you have to be able to ultimately enhance our ability to have privacy and data encryption so that we as a people, we as enterprises can restore trust and facilitate data exchange. When we stop that data exchange highway and we close it off, innovation can occur. And so I think quantum computing play a big role in helping us really establish and reestablish trust. And thirdly, we talk about this talent problem and overcoming kind of labor shortages. And ultimately, in order to do that, you fundamentally have to optimize process so that you can optimize resource. And quantum computing allows us to be able to fundamentally optimize our process. And so if you took one step deeper into those solutions, at Neom, we're working on many of those. And in particular, I want to highlight how quantum computing from a product and a solution standpoint can really be developed further. So as you think about that first element around ultimately, how do you create real lifelike experiences? The metaverse is a great topic and term that people are super excited about. But at Neom, we fundamentally believe this is truly life changing. It's the blending of the physical and the virtual worlds. That's what creates a metaverse. It's not just a digital version of the internet. There has to be a physical virtual interaction. So you can imagine you sitting at your spot, at your home, wherever you are in the world, and you hear about this great place of Neom. Well, you're not going to get on a plane and travel to Saudi Arabia, 24, 25-hour flight, because Joseph Bradley said it's a really cool place to go to. But you should have another way to be able to experience that as a first step. Enter Neomverse, which will allow you to be able to teleport yourself and be able to talk and interact with people and physically be present in that experience. So that's what we mean. And quantum computing can play a huge, huge role in this by really enhancing our ability to have cognitive natural language processing, or ultimately think of cognitive avatars that can understand and mimic real life human experiences and behaviors. This is where quantum computing can play a huge role. So we can stop asking, are you on mute? Are you on mute? Are you on mute? And begin to understand and create how do we interact and exchange with each other in a real life-like fashion. Next thing you think about consent management and the idea of trust. It's not about in-user license agreements. It's not about when you go to a site and you click on the button and they give you a list of things and you go, oh my God, you hope everything's going to be okay. What we're talking about is truly creating the world's first end-to-end consent management platform. That means that it allows you as a user to understand what data is being used, who it is being used for, what problems it's solving, and who has access to that information, all in one common location, right? So you're not having to go through a variety of things to figure out where your data is. A live example of this is, imagine coming to Neom in Saudi Arabia, and you're a Westerner and you're super excited because the scenery is beautiful, and beautiful corals and beautiful scenery around the world. You're super excited. You take a picture. You think nothing of it. This is great scenery, but you don't realize that maybe there's a young family in the background with a kid, a young baby, and you captured that baby in the photo. Or maybe there happens to be a Muslim woman who is changing her attire, who doesn't want to be seen, and you capture her in the background, but you don't think of it. You post it on Facebook, no big deal. But their experiences, they're horrible. They're upset. They're like, hey, you didn't understand. I didn't want my family or my photos posted on Facebook. A friend of a friend of a friend knows that person. Now we have an issue. Well, imagine a consent management platform where it says, yes, you have rights over the likeness, you have rights over that photo. That is your photo, but you do not have the rights over the likeness of the individuals in that image. So when you take that photo, before it's loaded to the cloud, it understands and checks not only your consent management settings, but theirs in the photo, and says, you know what? They did not give their permission, consent to take this photo. So it dissolves their image from the background before that photo is uploaded on to the net or leisure device. That's the type of power that we're talking about when we think about what we can do with quantum computing. And then finally, you talk about this whole notion of how do you ultimately handle talent management. If I had to sum it up, the problem that we're facing as business leaders is, how do you gain productivity from an unseen workforce? When you think about that challenge, you have it today. Most of us don't realize that if you looked at the number of freelance contractors in your workforce, 60% plus are freelancers. You don't performance manage them. You don't have any visibility. You don't have a way to understand how they're interacting or how they're productive. They don't show up in any HR or human people's report other than contractors' cost. And so it's time for us to create a platform, teams as a service, if you will, leveraging the power of quantum computing to predict how teams will ultimately collaborate and which products are best for what teams. In other words, imagine applying a kind of Myers Briggs type of analysis to all the freelancers in the world to be able to understand and say, this group of freelance, this group of contractors, this group of freelance workers, gig economy workers, forming a team together could be most productive. That's what we're talking about when we think about teams as a service. Okay, so we talked about the ability for us to fundamentally create lifelike experiences, drive trust in the economy, and ultimately be able to manage this unseen workforce in new and exciting ways. If it were that easy, we'd probably do it now. But the hardest part is not what you think. The hardest part is not the tech. The hardest part is understanding fundamentally that we have to have a fundamentally change in our management view. In our management view, I mean our leadership view. It requires, if you're going to use quantum computing and build quantum applications that fundamentally have never been built before, it requires obviously a new level and new type of thinking. In other words, you have to embrace this notion that diversity in our world today is not enough. Diversity is the potential to create value. You may have a diverse group of people based on backgrounds, race, religions, ethnicity, a variety of topics, but that's not enough if you want to be successful in quantum computing. You have to move from the potential to value to the creation of value via inclusion, the realization of that value by driving full participation. In other words, it's not enough to have a room of diverse people. You have to give them a voice so that we can create and really harness their true power of what they're doing and create value. And this value is tremendous for us. For me, 20,000 children die each and every day because of poverty. And when you think about our ability to focus on not so much of our differences in today's world, but our commonality, the common ground, what quantum computing can be able to do. 15% of this international aid that's supposed to be going to children never arrives. The ability for us to look at our quantum blockchain technology to be able to track that from origination to destination is impeccable, incredible, and it can unleash a huge source of power and value and benefit. So, as we think about the topics that we've discussed and we've talked today, we've talked about the ability for quantum computing to truly be a valuable business asset in helping us ultimately really create life experiences. We've talked about the ability to establish trust in our economy. Very simply, no trust means no data means no value. And then finally, our ability to ultimately really create value from this unseen workforce, right? To be able to fundamentally redefine how we retain and attract top talent around the world to create value. My call to action for you is to give people a voice, is to reach out to all, not just from a diversity standpoint, from an inclusion standpoint. Join the conversation. I'm going to start some on Twitter, hashtag human centric, hashtag cognitive tech, and really embrace the opportunity that we have in front of us to redefine how we work, how we interact with each other, how we live together as humans. When you think about the challenge that is ahead of you, don't worry about what you don't know. As business leaders and technology leaders around the world, I want you to wake up each and every day and fundamentally challenge what it is that you believe to be true. Thank you very much. Have a great day.